Hello, my name is Richard Haight, author of The Unbound Soul. And today I'd like to talk about fear. I've received a few emails specifically talking about how to deal with um, the economic, societal, ecological shifts that are occurring that are indicative of a looming collapse. The fear that brings up in individuals can be quite debilitating, putting them in a state of fight, flight, or freeze through much of their life. They may actually be addicted to news of the collapse and finding that that's putting them in constant anxiety, maybe even depression, but they might not be able to distance themselves from those stories. When I was younger, I had a number of visions of the impending or looming collapse. And those visions were very, very traumatic, how realistic they were. And after having those visions, I started researching to see, is there any substance to such visions? Is there, do they represent a authentic potential future? Or is it just some sort of weird nightmare kind of, is it just some sort of an illusion? The more that I researched, the more that I found that even in the scientific community, in the economic community, on many different fronts, ecological as well as societal, we can see clear evidence that doesn't direct us towards a positive future. The best argument I've seen against the looming collapse is it's a psychologist, if I recall, named Steven Pinker. He has a book, Enlightenment, now. I can't remember his first name, pardon me. But he says that happiness is increasing, wealth is increasing around the globe. And I agree that that's true. The more people have access to food, more people have access to water and healthcare around the world. But what I don't think he's noticed is that all of the improvement has occurred as a result of debt increase, not actual not healthy economic growth, but extreme debt increase. And that is a time bomb waiting to occur. And so when I recognized that time bomb, it definitely scared me. And those visions really, really scared me. And I can say that those visions actually lit a fire under me to find a way of being that made life better now for me and those around me, and also would be helpful in the event that a collapse occurred. In what way could I have a way of being that would help people around me in the event that there was a collapse, to take them out of extreme fear and towards more clarity? And so that was for me, now there was a transition. It was a couple of years where I was like, the sky is falling, and in panic, and always trying to anticipate when it's going to happen, and sort of prepping and all of that sort of thing. But there was a point where I made a transition, where I realized that the best way to navigate almost any negative situation is the same way that I do the martial arts. It's more awareness and more calm awareness, a way of being that is calmly aware, a way of action in the world that is calmly aware, but decisive, clear. And so I started working on that in the training with my instructor in Japan. I worked the healing art that I had practiced into the and meditation and martial arts that we were doing, and we kind of put them together. And this sort of naturally brought about a calm, clear awareness that just came from the center of my being and permeated and extended out. And I noticed that I had gone beyond the fear into a way of being that was inspired and that took action, that was highly empowered and empowering to others as well. I noticed that the same thing occurred with my teacher. He discussed how he felt calmer and more inspired in life and more able to navigate difficulties with grace. The awakening process ultimately leads towards that. But there may be a period of time where we're in this sky is falling mentality. The sooner we can move through that, the sooner we can get to a place where we're functional in the world in a useful way and not just adding to the chaos of the collapse. Because so long as we're in the sky is falling phase, we're adding to the chaos, we're adding to the forces of the collapse. So the first step is allow yourself to recognize that it's the attitude that one has assumed, either consciously or unconsciously, the attitude that one has assumed towards change and hardship that is creating the sky is falling experience, the panic experience, the the anxiety, and that the shift of attitude is really where we want to go. Recognizing that in any hardship, there is the potential to awaken, to develop, to realize greater awareness, to practice that calmness under pressure. And that's really what it is. It's the recognition this is an opportunity to practice calm clarity under pressure, to express love under pressure. And by love, I don't mean affection. I don't mean affection. You could express in that way. That's just one of the many ways that it expresses. What I mean by love, I mean unconditioned love in such a way that it perceives the interconnectedness of all things at a felt level. And sometimes that may not come out as affection. Sometimes, we need to hear things very clearly and directly. It doesn't seem, it's very sternly, it doesn't seem affectionate. Like a parent might say to a child, hey, you need to stop that. Sometimes we need to, it will express in that way too, but it's for the best good of everybody. There are many ways in which it'll express it. It can't be boxed. It shouldn't be boxed. But the ability, the potential to move through that fear and into a place of clarity is within all of us. And the way to do it is in little by little every day, meditate, go into a calm, clear space and notice what pulls you out of that meditation. Notice what brings about anxiety. And that's your step. That's your training. Expose yourself to what pulls you out and see how long it takes you before you can be exposed to that and remain in the meditation. Remain in that clear space that could come from prayer. Maybe you pray to get into that clear space. It's okay. Whatever means you use, the simpler the better. As far as practical purposes, the simpler the better. The more complicated it is, the less likely you will be able to do it in your daily life, which is stressful and high-paced. So really, the simpler the better. But for now, if whatever means you need, if you need to jump through hoops to get there, jump through hoops. At some point, you will start to see the value of simplification. If you do, my book, The Unbound Soul, and my other book, Experience Meditation Unbound, will help you to simplify and see kind of what's really going on inside here and why simplification is really, really beneficial, and methods to get to that calm space that are very simple and natural. And also they will detail many of the challenges that you're going to go through. So those are very, very useful tools They come from the perspective of awakening in daily life, awakening under pressure, which is the reality of our daily life. Not everybody's going to, behave the way we want them to. Not every life isn't always going to give us the pitches we want. Not everything's going to go well. And so how do we move with that? And that's really, in a way, it's sort of a warrior's perspective. So the warrior is preparing for the worst case scenario. And how do they flow through and transcend the worst case scenario? And so that's where the martial arts training helped me. And in a lot of ways, that's how what we're practicing here is different from a lot of other methods, which create a very idealistic situation. We might put ourselves in the perfect atmosphere and some nice background music and close our eyes and kind of just really make the perfect, easy atmosphere to meditate. To me, that is white belt stuff. As a martial artist perspective, that is really white belts. That's maybe where you might start on day one, but that's not where you ought to be on day two. So this has to be something that it's applicable in our daily lives. You're going to meditate and little by little expose yourself to greater and greater pressures, because that's how reality works. And you need to be able to stay in that calm space. It's like the eye of the hurricane, with all the chaos of the hurricane in the very center of it is calm. And that's how your life, that's where you're moving toward in your life. And then from that perspective, the changes in society, this kind of collapsing momentum of society, is just another challenge. It's just another challenge. Part of this is going to be dealing with fear of death. The reality is there isn't anybody who's walked on this planet who has not gone through death. It's the mind which turns it into something very negative. You have no memory of your death. You don't know what it's like. Not in direct experience. So it doesn't have to be, we don't have to assume that it's inherently a negative thing, which is what we're doing. I mean, I'm not saying that we should assume it's a positive thing either. I'm saying we should go into it using the concept of death. We want to be calm and clear about that as well. Calm and clear about that as well. Once we transcend the fear of death, then the apocalypse, the breakdown of the false structures of our lives, all of the corruption, becomes less a fearful realization. And we become a strength for society. We become an individual that other people can then look to for inspiration and direction, for guidance. All of us have needed guidance at some point in our lives. At some point, we may be the guide. It's okay. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you're great or not great. It's just a role that you're then able to step into and serve. You don't get any extra credit points for it. Doesn't mean you're any more or less spiritual than anyone else. But it is a joy to be able to be in that place, because there's a clarity and a sense of connectedness to it, everyone and all that is. And that's very, very important. So in your daily life, if we want to transcend the fear of collapse, we need to start transcending the fears that are in our daily lives, the things that cause us to pop out of meditation. Just very simple things. It might be the ticking of your clock. It might be, your children's activities, your kids playing in the other room. It could be really anything. It could be talking. In your meditation, you talk and it pulls you out of the meditation. Those are your challenges, to stay calm and clear and expanded, and be able to talk, be able to listen. The next step is, you should be able to go into a heavy metal concert and meditate. And it shouldn't take long. If it takes, people will think, well, that would take years. No, it doesn't. If you assume that it takes years and you believe it will take years, it will take years. But if you set that as your goal, to be able to meditate through heavy metal music, and you practice it, within a week you'll be able to do it. Within a week you'll be able to do it if you practice it every day. And you'll figure out, oh gosh, that really wasn't that hard. You would have thought it was. And if you continued meditating in a way that you close off all stimulus and you create the perfect environment, you'll probably never get there. You may never get there. So we're taking, in a way, the warrior's approach to enlightenment. The warrior's approach is to address challenges, not turn away from them. And the recognition that we are, on some level, someplace deep down, there is a kind of strength to get through these challenges. Even the strength to get through death. There will be failures, there will be non-successes, there will be difficulties. Those are just the challenges. Some of the challenges may be a little bit large for you right now. Pick the ones that are sort of in your range, almost like training in any sport. You don't handle the most difficult thing first, you kind of work your way up to it. Doesn't mean you couldn't work your way up to it fairly quickly. Some things might take longer. Feel your way through it. Trust your intuition. And you might even select your challenges. This week, I'm going to work on, today I'm going to work on the ticking of the clock. I'm going to work on accepting that in my meditation, including that. That's not wrong. My attitude that it's wrong or it's annoying is the issue, not the clock. The next step would be being able to talk, being able to communicate with somebody without totally collapsing. It's surprisingly difficult. You might find a heavy metal concert easier than being able to actually just have a conversation without collapsing back into the sense of self and collapsing out of awareness. Other things we might deal with would be emotional traumas and ingrained emotional reactivity. Those things are great to work with. So these are ways that we actually prepare on a quote-unquote spiritual level for the looming collapse. But these ways benefit all of your life, and they also benefit those around you and all of society. If it's just prepping, there's a pretty big limit to what it can help. I think that there are some physical skills that would be useful to know. It'd be useful to know how to purify water. It'd be useful to know how to read people, to be able to tell when a person is near a state of violence, when they're near a state of emotional breakdown. It'd be helpful to know when people need to take a break, take a rest. It's also helpful for you to know when you need to take a break and take a rest. Recognizing that any perceptual change that we have through meditation, we need to sleep in order to allow the brain to incorporate those changes. Other skills that would be useful are basic, very, very basic survival skills, how to make a fire from sticks. That's useful. I learned to do that. It's kind of fun. It's actually rather empowering. I don't think it's actually really necessary. Not at this exact moment. In all likelihood, any collapse that will occur will happen over a period of time. It won't just be an instant. It'll sort of happen. At one point, it may just drop off, but we're kind of in that sort of rolling state where it just kind of gradually rolls along. If you flash back mentally 10 years ago and compare now to then, then it's really obvious. If you flash back 20 years ago, you're like, it's really, really obvious the direction that we're going in, the momentum. But recognize that on a day-to-day basis, we don't necessarily perceive those changes. And it may be another 10 years down the road before it gets to a point where starvation is a real possibility for you every day, where just keeping warm is a real possibility for you. And it could happen quicker than that, or it could take longer. So recognizing that we don't really know, we start spending our time doing that which is beneficial to all of society and us. And largely that's finding the deepest place of awareness within and allowing that to emerge so that we're strong enough when we need to learn how to make a fire, even we need to hunt, we have this strength within that we know we will be able to do it. We know we'll be able to learn anything. There won't be a hesitation. And when that comes out, instinct, a lot of these skills I'm talking about, they're very actually instinctive, will start to emerge. You may find that you suddenly know what's edible and what's not. You might recognize that, oh, you know how to purify water, even though no one taught you how to do it, if you can remain in that clear space. A lot of these things are instinctive for the human being. You might find out that, oh, geez, I'm able to navigate the forest. Something's pulling you along, you don't know why. If you're uncomfortable with the forest, that won't happen. So let yourself go into nature, spend some time there and become very, very comfortable, and a little bit step out of your comfort zone there. You know, don't always wear lots of clothing. Try it without much clothing. Put on your shorts or your swimsuit and go out and spend a little time in nature. Be comfortable, allow yourself to get comfortable getting bit by mosquitoes, you know, if you're really concerned. Like I said, I don't think that we're at a point where collapse is going to happen tomorrow. But now is a great time to prepare. It's primarily we're preparing our attitude towards mosquitoes. We're preparing our attitude towards the ticking clock, our attitude towards the heavy metal concert, towards the conversation, towards our job. You know, if we're inspired in our work, is it the problem with the work being uninspiring, or are we just uninspired? We haven't found that place of inspiration within. We may find that we can tap into this place of unconditioned inspiration and do any job, and at least make it less difficult, less boring, less uninspired than it would otherwise be. We may find that we can be in a blissful state doing the most boring, what would otherwise be considered boring activity. So hopefully this video helps. The awakening process is almost completely, I mean, if there was any one word that I could say that it's dealing with, it's attitude towards everything in life. It happens at an attitudinal level. When the attitude is right, the brain makes some important changes and shifts as far as, you know, neuroplasticity. It starts to change the way that your body's going to most easily respond to stimulus. The most easy way to respond to stimulus starts to become calm, and it starts to become clarity. But it has to be actually employed in your life in order for the brain to make those changes. So go ahead and play with this. I'd love any questions you have. If you feel like supporting this channel and donating, it would be very, very helpful. The more time that I can dedicate to answering your questions and providing some useful service to the viewer, the better. The more time I have to spend my time doing other activities to produce money, so that I can actually then give here, the less I can address your challenges. So any donations help, and thank you very much for supporting the awakening process, and take care. Bye.